Let me remind all women that we live longer and better lives when we have sisters we love, not necessarily born in our bloodline or of our race. Maya Angelou. It started for International Women's Day 2021. The Creators Circle gathered to explore the possibilities for women in the hub. We decided to continue the conversation with small groups of women. Smart women, compassionate women, wise women, women from 3 different continents, 4 different countries, all coming together for one purpose: to lift each other up. And now we're doing it again. Please join Comfort Sakoma, Angela Bartee, and myself, Kimberley MacKenzie, for our second virtual gathering of Women in the Hub. We'll have 2 events with the same agenda to accommodate different time zones. The first will be Thursday, June 3rd at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The second, Friday, June 4th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. This is a glimpse into our planning session. What are your lasting impressions of those conversations?
They've provided me with probably the only space that I have where I can speak openly and freely about pretty much anything that I feel comfortable sharing, without fear of people making fun of me behind my back or judgment. I honestly believe that everyone brings their whole selves to the table, and it just makes you that much more comfortable to sort of speak and share. And I think also the fact that we are all peers, different ages, but peers in terms of career, I think also makes it so that a lot of times in my circles, I definitely have friends that are very successful, but it's very important, I think, to be around people who are where you are or a little bit higher than where you are so that
Right,
you learn from them as well.
right.
And so that provides this perfect balance for me because both of you are people that I look up to. And so I'm really, really just honored to be able to gather with you guys. It makes me happy to be part of this.
Oh, that's
Very
sweet.
happy.
Oh. Well, I mean, I look up to you too. I learned so much from you. And so there you go. It's just,
I would echo Comfort's sentiment in the sense that it really was a safe space to share yourself, to be yourself, and to hear other people share very real and sometimes painful experiences with themselves with total strangers. And there's a level of trust and comfort and authenticity in that I realized until we did it that I didn't have in other spaces. And I think it made me want it more. Like when you can be that open and you can hear other people's stories and be inspired by their stories, and you can share your own thoughts, and there's no judgment, there's no evaluation, there's no comparison. It's not meeting a metric. It's not, um, there's a sense of freedom in being able to say, this is what I think. And there's no fear that I'm going to say something wrong. And I think there's a heightened sense of that particular sentiment right now. Like our life is changing, society is changing. What's acceptable and unacceptable is changing. We're making people more aware of things that probably have not been acceptable for a long time. And we're requesting people to change their jargon and their ways of communication. But I think we've got to do it in a way where we're not going to condemn someone if they make a mistake.
yeah.
And so I think, our desire for diverse, equitable, and inclusive spaces has to also come with environments of grace and understanding and compassion. And we don't often have that space in our work environments.
Because we are having to completely restructure our social networks and so if we're going to be brave and bold and say things that might be scary, we need a spot to do it that feels okay to do it. And I say that being very aware that as a white person, I don't I don't know, some people might say that I don't deserve a safe space to take risks, but I don't know. I
I
kind of
would
feel like,
disagree with that, just because if we especially need white people to change, we've
mm,
got to help them do that safely. We
yeah,
can't, none of us are perfect,
yeah,
whether the conversation is about race or the conversation is about parenting or the conversation is about gardening.
yeah,
None of us knows all the answers. And so if we make a mistake and we say something wrong, I
mhm,
would want somebody to be compassionate and correct me kindly
yeah,
than to just beat me over the head and say, "You idiot, why did you say it that way?" Or like,
yeah,
"Haven't you learned anything yet?"
yeah, yeah,
And that kind of reaction, whether it's face to face or whether it's through social media, makes people less willing to
mm.
change,
Um, I,
or
I-
less willing to even try to be bold enough to
yeah,
show that they want to change
yeah.
because they're too afraid to make a mistake.
Maybe our focus could be, how do we make friends who don't look like us, or something like that.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
even
good
if
one.
it's even if it's because I would say our social circles, but more so our professional circles, that might be easier, um, by suggesting to people that you need to be friends with people who you don't naturally feel drawn to. For intimate friendships, I think that might feel far reaching.
Mm.
But at the very least, if we diversify our professional networking, that is a lot more palatable and achievable because we have many colleagues that we create connections with at conferences and group chat conversations on LinkedIn. And we just need to be more intentional about when we're attending conferences, sitting next to or meeting someone, going to a happy hour and introducing ourselves to someone who doesn't look like us. So we're at the very least diversifying our professional spaces. And when there are opportunities for hiring and or advancement at our organizations, we can share those positions with our network that is not reproducing ourselves.
So at a conference, I sat down at a table at lunch with a bunch of women who were all Black women, and I was so uncomfortable, I got up and just excused myself and went and sat somewhere else. Um,
Why were you uncomfortable?
well, I didn't really feel like I was welcome or like I belonged. So,
So here's an interesting thing about that. And this is not, it's a separate realization. It has nothing to do with your experience and whether that was a wrong or right feeling. That was your feeling. The reality is African American men, women, Native Americans, those who are in minority populations
mhm,
experience that every second of every day
yeah,
if they work in a predominantly white
yeah,
institution, company, or organization.
yeah,
But we've been doing it for so long, since childhood. We
yeah,
have learned to ignore that discomfort
yeah,
and forge ahead anyway, because it's the only way that we can achieve our goals,
yeah,
um, get the positions that we need. And so, but it's really great that you said that, because that's the way many minorities can feel just going to work.
yeah,
And it's hard to articulate that
yeah,
until you feel it yourself.
yeah,
Because I'm sure the other people in the room would say, well, there's no reason why you shouldn't feel like you connect here. Like, we didn't do anything mean to you yet. We didn't
yeah,
say anything
yeah,
angry to you yet. We didn't put a pine cone in your seat. Like, why would you feel uncomfortable?
yeah,
Um, but it can feel that way in many rooms unless people are intentionally welcoming.
mhm,
And that's the part of, that's the extra level of diversifying our workspaces.
mhm,
We have to be intentionally welcoming to diversity. We can't just all be sitting at our desks doing our normal thing and expect diverse people to walk in. Nobody says anything, nobody talks, everybody's doing that, and think that they're going to feel welcome. We, the leaders, we, the veterans, we, the people who've been working there longer, we, the people who have higher titles, we have to take the ownership to be affirmative welcomers, to take action and be proactive in welcoming new people into our spaces and guiding them along the way.
Go
I'm
ahead.
so happy that this is being recorded because that was a golden contribution.
Yeah.
That exchange was just so powerful. I couldn't have articulated it better myself, and wow, that's a goosebump moment.
I think you should lead it, Angela.
I'd be happy to.
Because I don't know. What do you think, Comfort?
I mean, sign me up. I'll be there to listen. That's amazing. I mean, absolutely,
But I want this to be an inclusive conversation. So
this is about lifting other women up and making connections. So
married women versus single women, people who are from a town and others who are not, or, from a state and others who come from outside of that state. I mean, there's so many different, people who've been in the military and those who have not. There's so many dynamics that create our complex identities that, depending on the prevailing personality of the group you're walking into, anyone can feel excluded. And so we just all, in order to create these safe, productive, diverse spaces where we can all feel a sense of belonging, we need to be intentionally welcoming.
I might say, something on how to build a diverse social network in the workplace, or something that's less, that, doesn't emphasize the difference part.
So I also wrote down strategies for creating a diverse network.
I think that's great. That's on a lot of people's minds.
It is.
I think this first one is brilliant. Maybe after the first one with Angela, we can see what some of the themes are.
Yeah.
And then from that.
All right. Well, then I'm done.
Short and sweet.
All women who identify as women are welcome at WITH events. Let's get together and talk about being intentionally welcoming. You can RSVP at intersectionhub.ca/women in the hub. But don't wait too long, because we're keeping the group small so that we can go deeper with the conversation. We can't wait to see you there.